Jason Chaffetz of Utah is joining us right now. Among other things, he suggested that perhaps President Obama's handling of the Benghazi terror attack could be an impeachable offense. Congressman, tell us what you mean by that.
Well, thanks, Wolf. Good to be with you. Look, it's not something I'm seeking. It's not the end game. It's not what we're playing for. I was simply asked, is that within the realm of possibilities? And I would say yes. I'm not willing to take that off the table, but that's certainly not what we're striving for. We want truth. We want to bring the people who perpetrated the terrorism in Benghazi to be brought to justice, and we want to have the president do what he has said he would always do, and that is be open and transparent. Thus far, the White House has not done that.
Here's what Jay Carney, the White House press secretary, said today in response to a question. Listen to this.
Obama's being compared to President Nixon on that. How does he feel about that?
Again, I don't have a reaction from President Obama. I can tell you that the people who make those kind of comparisons need to check their history because, you know, what we have here with one issue in Benghazi is so clearly, as we're learning more and more, a political sideshow, a deliberate effort to politicize a tragedy.
All right, that's what he's saying about you, a political sideshow. You're simply trying to score some political points.
No, that's always the White House strategy, right? Just try to demoralize and take down the messenger. We heard from 3 very credible witnesses with more than 70 years of public service say that what happened on the ground versus what the White House would lead us to believe were 2 totally different things. The president himself has said that he wants to be open and transparent, and yet when the Speaker of the House says, well, why don't you release the unclassified documents related to Benghazi, they won't even do the most basic of things. So, look, we have 4 dead Americans. I can't imagine that the White House spokesperson would ever say that about the bombings in Boston, for instance, where we had also 4 people killed by terrorism. Of course we're going to look into this, Wolf. It's the necessary thing to do. And to his credit, Elijah Cummings, the ranking Democrat on the committee, said that we should have more hearings, more transparency. So even the Democrats who were sat through the meeting are agreeing with this on this one, Wolf.
Thomas Pickering, the retired U.S. ambassador who led that internal State Department investigation into what happened involving Benghazi. He's written a letter today that we have a copy right here to your chairman, Darrell Issa, saying he would like to appear before an open session of your hearing. You should give him an opportunity to explain what he and Admiral Mullen did. Are you ready to do that?
Absolutely. I asked them personally in a letter back in February to come meet with the committee. We wanted to do it in a bipartisan way. We wanted to have some informal discussions. We wanted to be able to see the documents that they had. They refused to do it. Now that we had some credible witnesses come forward and start to share their stories, suddenly they want to be open and transparent. But when we tried to do it in February, they said no. We've been stymied at every single step of the way. And despite what those 2 gentlemen who led that committee, who led that review, say to the rest of the world, they have not been open and transparent. They have refused to give us that information. Of course we would love to hear from them, because we have some very serious questions.
Well, are you demanding, and before there's an open session, they meet privately with you and other staff members to go through all of this, or are you just willing to let them come and testify?
Well, look, I'll work with Chairman Issa on this. We have been asking since February for them to come meet with the committee and to share this information. I think it's fair that the United States Congress be able to review the same information and talk to the same people that they were able to look at. And I think the American people should have at least the unclassified documents released to them. That would be fair and transparent and consistent with what the president said. But again, my challenge with the president is what he does and what he says are often 2 different things.
He says
this is one of the things.
Pickering, in the letter to Chairman Issa, says he would like to appear at a public hearing to discuss the work of the board. Let's see what happens if there are any conditions that you impose on him before that public hearing. Let's talk a little bit about Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States. He says that this investigation into the leak was required because it was one of the most damaging leaks in U.S. history, an AP leak. It put American lives in danger. Do you agree with him?
The scope of this is what's stunning. The breadth of this net, the time that it went, the number of people that it covered, that's just not the American way. And to have a chilling effect, which is the word we keep hearing again and again, of the government spying on the media is just not the way we do things in this country. Look, if you have probable cause to go after somebody and you want to go in and look at a very narrow scope, there are sometimes justification for doing that. But as it's been laid out, as we're hearing from the IRS and we're hearing with the Attorney General and what they're doing with the media, as we're hearing with Benghazi, I mean, every time you turn around, does anybody have confidence in this government and the way the Obama administration is handling this? I don't, and I think most people are really raising an eyebrow and saying, that's just not the way we do things, folks. Remember, we were going to be hope and change, and we're going to do things differently? This is getting worse, not better.
On the IRS investigation, this Inspector General report that just came out, among other things, they said, doesn't look like there was any outside influence on officials at the IRS to go target Tea Party organizations, other conservative political organizations. I'll read you the line. We asked the acting commissioner, tax-exempt and government entities division, the director, EO, and determinations unit personnel if the criteria that singled out conservative groups were influenced by any individual or organization outside the IRS. All of these officials stated that the criteria were not influenced by any individual or organization outside the IRS. That this apparently was done internally. You buy that?
Well, it's something we're going to ask some questions about. I mean, the idea that they were targeting people based on the word selections that were out there. You had people like Senator Orrin Hatch from my same state. He had been asking a long time ago about this, and we seem to have been misled in Congress. You go back and look at the testimony by the then acting director of the IRS and what that person was saying to Congress. Did he or did he not have full knowledge of this? I think it's a question that still we need to ask and we'll dive into. I know that the Oversight Committee has just announced that it's going to have a hearing next Wednesday. I'm sure the Senate is also going to be looking at this. Of course, we're going to ask that question. I hope that's the right answer, but something we're obviously going to investigate.
So you support Eric Holder, the Attorney General, when he said today there will be a Justice Department investigation to determine if any criminal laws were violated?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The people who perpetrated this, the people who are overstepping this line, they should go to jail, Wolf. There need to be consequences. You know, what I've seen from the Obama administration is, oh, we'll just blame everybody, so nobody's held accountable and there's no responsibility. And have you yet to see anybody even get fired in these types of things? I mean, going back from the GSA scandal, the Fast and Furious, I mean, you go right on down the line. We don't see people being held accountable, fired, and some people need to be prosecuted and put in jail.
Well, 4 State Department officials were fired as a result of the Benghazi investigation. That
no, they weren't. No,
they were removed from their jobs.
No, Wolf, let's have another discussion about this, because what happened with those 4 people, they led us to believe that they were fired, but they weren't fired. They're still taking an income. And so
they're not working at the State Department.
I challenge you on that. Let's have another discussion about that.
Let's check it out, because he specifically said those 4 individuals who had direct responsibility for the lax security at that consulate in Benghazi, they were removed from their jobs and they were punished, they were penalized. But we'll check into it and get the specific information.
That would be great.
All right, Congressman, as usual, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
A new spy scandal broke today.